most podcasts. I don't know.
So this is something huge now.
Okay. All right. So, okay, we're just about ready to start. I thought maybe we would take a quick look at the halacha about the brachas you make before you put on your tefillin. We all know what we're supposed to do. It's just a question of, understanding the difference of opinion between Ashkenaz and Sfard. So it's in Orach Chaim Siman Chaf Tes, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no! In Siman Chaf Tes, there's just one sif. It says Ein levarich shum bracha keshacholetz tefillin. You should not make any bracha when you remove your tefillin. Afilu keshacholtzam erev Shabbos bein hashmashos. Even if you remove them right before Shabbos begins. Now, the question, of course, is why would I think that I should make a bracha on my tefillin? So the Mishnah Berurah says, Perush la'afuke mimayda amrinan. This is coming to exclude that which the Gemara in Nida says, de b'nei ma'arava, that the people of Eretz Yisrael, the Yerushalmi, hayu mevorchim asher kiddushanu b'mitzvosa v'tzivonu lishmor chukav, that they used to make the bracha that thank you, God, for sanctifying us with your mitzvahs and commanded us to observe his statutes, basar de misalkin tefillin balayla. After they would take off their tefillin in the evening. Shehem hayu svurim de laila lavzman tefillinu, and because they were of the opinion that nighttime is not the time for tefillin, like we saw yesterday. And v'nafkalu zem mikra v'shamartas hachuka hazos lemo adam yamim yamima yamim v'lo leilos. And they derive that from the verse that says that you shall observe this statute, which we said that according to this opinion in the Gemara refers to the statute of tefillin, miyamim yamima, only during the daytime, but v'lo leilot, but not at nighttime. Avaladidan desvirlan dahikrasi le'inyan acher k'isa b'gemara v'layla kaimlan desman tefillinu. He says, but according to us, that we paskin that the tefillin can be worn at night. We, the Babylonians, we hold that tefillin can be used at night, and that pasuk v'shamartas chachuka hazos l'moada is a reference to the Paschal sacrifice protocols. Okay, right? Ach ein lahanicham lechatchila degazru shemeyisham b'hem v'yafia chilkachem levarich. However, the reason why we don't wear tefillin at night, why are we not permitted to wear tefillin at night? It's a rabbinic decree, not because it's not the zman of tefillin. You could theoretically wear tefillin at night and fulfill a mitzvah, but the rabbi said you may not, lest you fall asleep, because nighttime is the time of sleep. What's wrong with falling asleep with your tefillin on?
Stuff like that.
Flatulence. Okay. As we get older, that becomes much more prevalent. Okay.
Some of us were younger.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're worried. I'm not worried about nocturnal emissions anymore, but flatulence has become more of a thing. Okay.
Or so, okay, and that kind of stuff.
Okay. So, but what's interesting is what the Mishnah Berurah doesn't say is why would I think to make a bracha when I'm finished with the mitzvah? That's the main part of this that the Mishnah Berurah doesn't even bother explaining. So if we take a look at the Beis Yosef, he says over here, he brings the whole Gemara about V'shamarta sachuka hazos lemo adami yamim yamima. Okay. Okay, and he says Rabbi Akiva, it's a machlokas Rabbi Yossi Haglili and Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yossi Haglili says it refers to tefillin, and Rabbi Akiva says it refers to the mitzvah of Pesach. So, okay. Okay. Oh, okay. So he quotes Rabbeinu Tam as saying that the Bnei Eretz Yisrael hayu mevorchim kishahayu misalkim osam samach lishkiya sachama. They used to make a bracha when they would take off their tefillin right before sunset, mishum diyesh mitzvah b'silukan, because there's a mitzvah, just like there's a mitzvah to put them on, there's also a mitzvah to take them off. Kiddushar darshinan hacha v'shamarta sachuka yamim v'lo leilos. The Amrinan Haminiach Tefillin Achar Shkiyas Hachama over Baaseh. And they held that if you wear your tefillin after sunset, you're in violation of a positive commandment. Okay, let's see. Okay, he continues along this discussion. Okay. Okay. In any event, that was the thinking. And that's the thinking of the Gemara where we are right now. So we're on Chaf Aleph Amid Beis. And Gemara, so now we're up to Rabbi Avahu b'shem Rabbi Elazar. He says, Hanosein tefillin balayla over ba'aseh. That if you put on your tefillin at night, you're in violation of a positive commandment, because the Torah says that you may only observe it during the day. Again, this is the machlokus between the Bavli and the Yerushalmi. Uma ta'am, and what's the reason for that? Like, what's the source? Because it says in the Torah, V'shamarta es hachuka hazos lemo ada miyamim yamima. This statute refers to tefillin, and it says yamim velo leilos, days and not nights. Yamima prat l'shabbatot v'yamim tovim. And also we know that yamima, which is an additional word, must be coming to teach something else. And that's coming to exclude Shabbos and Yom Tov. Now, we also paskin in the Bavli that Shabbos and Yom Tov are excluded from the mitzvah of tefillin. However, the Gemara in the Bavli learns it from the word miyamim, but only some days. So that's the difference of opinion.
Before, we don't do it on Shabbos because it's an os. You don't want to diminish the Shabbos, which is an os.
Shabbos is also an os.
Right.
So it's really, it's not, I don't remember it in terms of you don't want to minimize the os of Shabbos, but Shabbos is also an os. Once you already have the os of Shabbos, you no longer need the os of tefillin.
Why we learn from there instead of from there?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Where would the Yekas get the minhag to put on tefillin on like Chol Moed and stuff? Then this is coming to
Well,
exclude.
Chol HaMoed is not considered Yom Tov.
That's the whole part of it.
That's the truth is, from the Gemara itself, it seems you should put on tefillin on Chol HaMoed. It's not just Yekas. Yeah, it's really from the Gemara. The only reason why many of us do not is because we rely on the Beis Yosef, who was using Zoharic literature. The Zohar is the one who says you don't put on tefillin on Chol HaMoed. It's unusual. There are many times where the Beis Yosef will invoke Zohar.
And we would go by that.
And to go by Zohar. Yeah, it's unusual, but there are many times.
Are there any other people besides like the Yekas who put on tefillin?
Yeah, anyone who has a tradition from his family. Yeah, it's not just yeah, it's South Africans in Lita. In Lita, they used to also. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, Vaha Rabbi Avahu Yasiv Masne Biramsha Utfiloye Iluye. But 1 second, the Gemara says, Rabbi Avahu, you just taught that there's no mitzvah of tefillin at night, but Rabbi Avahu himself used to sit and teach Torah at night or learn Torah at night with his tefillin on. So the Gemara answers, Mitzvah din hava. Rabbi Avahu's tefillin were pushed to the side, meaning that he had them on the wrong part of his head. They really weren't, he wasn't fulfilling the mitzvah. In other words, I guess after once sunset came, he pushed his tefillin to the side. I guess he didn't want to interrupt his studies because he was so engrossed in his studies. So he said, well, I can't wear tefillin anymore. So he just pushed them to the side. Uchemin pikadon hayu biyado. And he just kept them on to protect them. I guess maybe he felt that he wasn't in a protected space. So that's why he kept wearing them, but not because there was a mitzvah.
So, Rabbi, does that mean in the morning, in the wintertime, when we put them on before the bracha, should we not put them on properly so that, should they be off to the side and we only fix them?
Right. No. So once again, before you came in, we pointed out that there's a machlokas between the Bavli and the Yerushalmi, whether nighttime is the zman of tefillin or not.
Okay.
We paskin that nighttime is the zman
Oh, I
of
see,
tefillin,
okay.
according to Rabbi Akiva.
Yeah.
So this question disappears. The reason why we don't put on tefillin at night is because we're fearful that you may fall asleep. However, in a situation where you wake up in the pre-dawn hours, permission is granted to put on the tefillin as long as you are in preparation of awaiting the dawn. So therefore, it's okay. Just you're not allowed to make the bracha yet. Okay. Now, East de Boy Meimar, others want to explain that, as far as Rabbi Avahu's behavior of having his tefillin on at night, Lo Amar Ella Hanosein, all he said was that if you put on your tefillin at night, you are committing a violation of the Torah. Aval im hayu alav mi ba'od yom, but if your tefillin were already on from the daytime, mutar, you're allowed to continue wearing them at night. And if you look at footnote number 8, he explains, he says, Dahainu b'pasuk b'sham arta, it's when the source for this whole halacha is b'sham arta zachuka hazos lemo ada. You have to observe this statute of tefillin in its proper time. And it says only miyamin, only during the days. So he's understanding that to mean that there's only a prohibition to put them on at night. But there's no prohibition to allow them to remain on if you put them on during the daytime and you just left them on. Now, the Gemara is now going to bring an additional source of how we know that there's no mitzvah of tefillin on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Is the boy Meimar? Some say that the exclusion of tefillin on Shabbos and Yom Tov is not based on the word yamima, but rather nishma'ina min hada. We learn it from the following, which is v'hayalecha laos. This is what Marv, you were making reference to. The Torah says it shall be for you as a sign, with af shehu lechalaos, meaning that the mitzvah of tefillin es shehu lechalaos only applies on days where we need an os, where we need a sign to show that we are faithful to God. Prat liyamim tovim v'shabbosos shekulan os. So that's to exclude Shabbos and Yom Tov, where we no longer need the os. We no longer need a sign. We no longer need a sign between ourselves and Hashem that we are his people, because the fact that it is Shabbos already is osi beni uvenechem. It is a sign between me and you, says God, that we are his people. And the same applies to Yom Tov as well, because Yom Tov is considered to be a Shabbat in a sense of a day of rest. And therefore, any day of rest, and that, by the way, that excludes Chol HaMoed, it's not a full day of rest, it's only a partial day of rest. And that's why really halachically, there is a strong basis to be obligated to wear tefillin on Chol HaMoed. So it says v'haya lecha laos, that it shall be for you as a sign. The Gemara is learning that only when it is the sign do you have an obligation to wear tefillin. But if there is already another sign that shows the special covenantal relationship between God and Israel, then there's no longer an obligation to wear tefillin.
Rabbi, one thing that we can talk about is why wouldn't we, with Rosh Chodesh, not wear tefillin?
Well,
Because there's a sign there.
what is the sign? Rosh Chodesh is not called a sign. The Torah never calls Rosh Chodesh a sign. The Torah only calls Shabbos a sign. Ki osi beini uvenichem. The Torah says by Shabbos.
It should fall in the same category as Chol Hamoed, maybe Rosh Chodesh.
But it doesn't. It doesn't. Chol HaMoed has a greater aspect of holiness than Rosh Chodesh. How do I know this?
Got the word moed.
No, how do you know? How can you know from halacha?
It's just restrictions, no you can do.
What?
Yes.
Well, there's no Kiddush on Chol
There's
HaMoed either.
restrictions.
Like
How-
dress one.
Look at how many aliyahs, the rabbis were brilliant. How many aliyot do we read on Rosh Chodesh?
4.
And how many aliyot on Chol HaMoed?
5.
Actually, there's only 3 aliyot on Chol HaMoed. That's not really true. So that's not really a good indication either. There's 3 aliyahs during the week, 4 aliyahs on Rosh Chodesh, 5 aliyahs on Yom Tov, 6 aliyahs on Yom Kippur, 7 aliyahs on Shabbos. So that's not really a good indicator. Chol HaMoed has an aspect of Kedusha, and therefore the rabbis debate. The Talmud Bavli holds that you should wear tefillin on Chol HaMoed. The Zohar says, based on Kabbalah, that you don't. So, but there's no discussion in the Zohar about Rosh Chodesh. So there's no reason to exempt yourself from tefillin on.
For those who wear tefillin on Chol Hamoed also take it off for Musaf, right?
They take it off for Musaf.
And also even for earlier, I think that.
And on Rosh Chodesh, you also take it off for Musaf. So I once gave a long shir about why we take off our tefillin for Musaf. It's a conflict based on the psukim that I don't
But
remember.
on
at this
Chol
point.
Hamoed, they take them off earlier than they do on Rosh Chodesh.
That's based on a couple of other things. Yeah. Anyway, so now we know that there's a second way of understanding how I know that I'm exempt from tefillin on Shabbos and Yom Tov. So the obvious question is, then why do I need the word miyamima, yamima? So velo ken ksiv miyamim yamima. Didn't we learn the double language of yamim yamima to explain that it's coming to exclude Shabbos and Yom Tov? Why do you need this additional source? So the Gemara answers, les lach ella kaye demar. He says, you only need it for the following manda omar, Rabbi Yochanan, kol mila de lo mechavra, any halacha that is not clarified, misamchlim le min asrin sagi. We bring other supports from other biblical text to bolster the first source, which is an astounding statement. Rabbi Yochanan is quoted as saying, and this is something that I don't think you'll find in the Bavli. Rabbi Yochanan says, let's say I have a biblical source that teaches me halacha X, but it doesn't clearly teach me halacha X. So I will sometimes invoke a secondary source to help bolster that the halacha is X, which is an astounding statement. He says, if you take a look at footnote number 10, Hadrasha me hapasuk miyamim yamima ena mivureres. The fact that we derive it from the word yamima, the word miyamim is only during the day, yamima to exclude Shabbos and Yom Tov. He says, that's not so clear. Mishum sheRebbi Akiva cholek umabed pasuk zeh Pesach. Why? Because Rebbe Akiva disagrees. And he says that whole pasuk is talking about Hilchos Pesach. Ulefichach anu mivi'im mekor nosav shu ledivrei hakol. And therefore, it's appropriate for us to bring a secondary source that even Rebbe Akiva can agree to. V'yesh meforshim bekavanas haGemara. Others explain shekeven shehaptur shel tefillin b'shabbosos v'yomim tovim eino kasuv beferish b'pasuk ela nilmad midrasha. that since it doesn't say explicitly in the pasuk that you don't wear tefillin on Shabbos and Yom Tov, but it's only derived from the extra verbiage, ein koshi im anu miviim lecha lo asmachtos mimispar mekamos. There's nothing wrong with bringing multiple sources to teach the same halacha. Keven shahapsukim halalo lo nichtavu b'miyuchad l'lamidin zeh. Since these psukim were not really written specifically for that purpose, ve'eno miyusarm, and they're not considered superfluous. So this is just a very bizarre way of phrasing an idea that this is one example of where the Bavli is much more scientific in the way that it creates derivations from scripture, and the Yerushalmi is a little bit less scientific, a little bit more loosey-goosey. The way that the Meforshim are explaining it, what the Yerushalmi is essentially saying is, if I can find multiple sources in the Torah for a halacha, great. Because it's not that that's the only thing that the pasuk is teaching, it's teaching other things as well. And if I can therefore bring multiple sources for the same halacha, then there's nothing wrong with doing that. And the Bavli would have a problem with that, because the Bavli is scientific about, if you've already learned it from here, why do you need to learn it again from here? You find that question being asked many times in the Bavli. Whereas here in the Yerushalmi says, no big deal. We can have multiple sources to teach me the same halacha, as long as the pasuk the secondary psukim that we're bringing, teach other information as well. Teach other information as well. Okay.
I mean, can you use one pasuk to learn multiple things?
Sometimes you can, apparently, but that's not what we're doing. We're doing just the opposite. We're bringing multiple psukim to teach the same, to learn one thing. So the Bavli would have a big problem with that. But Reb Yochanan basically takes the attitude in the Yerushalmi that no, gesundheit, the more the merrier. The more sources you can find for something that this is the halacha, the better off you are. And it's so uncharacteristic of our Babylonian minds.
Rabbi Yochanan is also in the Bavli all over the place.
He's quoted in the Bavli everywhere because he was the head of the rabbinic community in Eretz Yisrael. So he was always reckoned with. Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, though, were Eretz Yisrael sages, right? Yeah, so it's not like the Babylonian community was unaware of the Eretz Yisrael community. There was cross-pollination constantly. There was traveling back and forth. You always find
From
where,
the west, right?
yeah, from the west. The west means Eretz Yisrael, right? Because the Bavel, which is modern-day Iraq, is to the east of Israel. Okay, so now let us go on. Taman Taninan. So we have a Mishnah. So just by the way, we didn't analyze why we don't go like the Bavli. Why we don't go like the Yerushalmi as far as the blessings on the tefillin. Let's see. Hold on a second. Let me just bring up the halacha. Okay, the Shulchan Aruch in Siman Chaf Hey says, "V'yaniach shel yad techila, v'yavarich lahaniach tefillin, v'achar kach yaniach shel rosh, v'lo yavarich ki im bracha echas l'shteihem." So the Mechaber says that you put on the shel yad first, you make the bracha of lahaniach tefillin, and then you put on the shel rosh without making a bracha at all. Okay? And on that, the Rama says, "V'yesh omrim levarich al shel rosh, al mitzvahs tefillin." And the bracha that you make on the shel rosh is, thank God you commanded us over the mitzvah of tefillin, not lahaniach, but al mitzvahs tefillin. Afilu lo hifzik b'intayim, even if there was no hefzik. So we saw yesterday that this is a big machlokus in the Rishonim. The Rambam and the Mechaber, which is the Minhag Sfard, are of the opinion that you only make a second bracha on the Shel Rosh if you had a hefsek, an interruption between the Shel Yad and the Shel Rosh. But the Rosh and the Ran are of the opinion that you always make a bracha on the Shel Rosh. He says, "V'chein pashan haminig b'vnei Ashkenaz shemevarchim shtei brachas." And this is the Ashkenazic minhag that we always make two brachos. V'tov lomar tamid achar bracha hashniya baruch shem kavod malchuto leolam va'ed. And it's always good to say after the bracha on the Shel Rosh, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuso Li Olam Va'ed. So, what does the Mishnah Berurah say?
So the last one is just in case, like we are canceling the second bracket.
It's so Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuso Li Olam Va'ed, as we learned yesterday. What, according to the other opinion, is an unnecessary bracha, and whenever you make an unnecessary bracha, you say Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuso Le'olam Va'ed, and that's what the Mishnah Berurah says. V'tov lomar mishum chashash safek bracha levatala, out of a fear that maybe you made a bracha levatala, below shehu safek gomor. Not that it's a real safek. The imkein echi varach misafek bracha levatala v'yismoch al sheyomer Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuso Le'olam Va'ed. He says anytime you have a safek brachos, you don't make the bracha. So it's not a real safek.
If it was a real safek, we wouldn't
you wouldn't say it,
Yeah.
right? Ella da'anan b'nei Ashkenaz sfiralon lahalacha kedas Rabbeinu Tam, but we hold like Rabbeinu Tam that the Tefillin Shel Rosh does warrant its own bracha. Rak l'Ravcha demilsa lahotzi atzmeinu midei kol pikpuk. He says, but it's only to remove ourselves from any controversy. Nohagin lomar baruch shem kavod malchuto li'olam va'ed. So he says, "V'yizoher ma'od shalolomar baruch shem rak achar sheyahadek hashel rosh al rosho kiroi." He says, but be careful. Don't say the baruch shem kavod malchuso too quickly. Make sure that tefillin shel rosh is properly secured in its proper position on your head before you say baruch shem. Dim lokein yeh hefsek ben habracha lahanacha, because otherwise you'll make a hefsek between the bracha and the proper fixture on your head. Via bracha zu levatala, and then you'll really will have made a bracha levatala.
Right.
Bevadev etzarach lachzor levarich, and then you'll have to go back and make another bracha. And he says, unfortunately, v'ha'olam nichsholin bazeh, and unfortunately, a lot of people stumble in this idea.
Very timely that
What-
we just heard that.
Yes, but what the Mishnah Berurah did not explain is why the shel yad is lehoniach and the shel rosh is al mitzvahs.
Big mitzvah still is one of as opposed to one.
Well,
It's part of-
lahaniach is describing an action, and al mitzvahs. And by the way, the reason I'm asking this is because we saw yesterday that the Yerushalmi's version is just the opposite.
Yes.
On the shel yad, you make al mitzvahs tefillin, and on the shel rosh, you say al hanochas tefillin or lahaniach tefillin. So the question is, what's the difference between the two? All right, so that's your assignment. Go ask ChatGPT, because I'm sure that there's an explanation. But why is it that according to the Bavli, we say lahaniach on the shel yad and al mitzvahs tefillin on the shel rosh? The Mishnah Berurah doesn't explain the reason why. I'm going to just take a quick look at the Beis Yosef to see.
With the mitzvah, you say you already did it before with both of them. But you don't say a bracha when you do half of the mitzvah. So when you do the full mitzvah, you say the bracha.
Lahaniach is to start. So you're saying lahaniach is to start
Makes
it,
sense.
Yeah,
and al is to complete it.
yeah.
Interesting,
Makes sense.
maybe. But then we'd have to ask then the Yerushalmi doesn't make any sense. The Yerushalmi reverses the order.
Doesn't the pasuk say short, all the also they look to what they doesn't use not
There's a verbal commandment of ukshartam, tie them laos al yadecha. Yeah, but at least there's a verbal association of action, and vehayu, they shall be as totafos between your eyes. That would be al mitzvahs tefillin. Again, another good answer to explain our minhag but not enough to explain why the Yerushalmi is in the reverse. Okay,
Rabbi, I will say the Baruch on the Torah, so nobody can answer amen to that draft.
so one of the things that's brought down in halacha is that you're supposed to say the Shel Rosh bracha quietly so that people don't answer amen, lest it be considered to be an unnecessary bracha, in the event that it's an unnecessary bracha.
Wouldn't you say both quietly in case someone around you would say amen while they're in the middle of putting on their tefillin as well?
What's that?
Would you say both quietly so that someone
No,
doesn't say amen?
no, there's nothing wrong with, you
Because
don't
if
have,
someone said amen while they're putting on their tefillin, that would be bad for them.
so what? So what? So I have to worry that someone's putting on their tefillin, so I shouldn't say any bracha out loud, not just the tefillin, I shouldn't say,
suppose.
yeah.
Okay.
Let's see.
The Grot also only has one bracha.
Okay,
I think we saw that yesterday.
Yeah.
We missed that, you gotta share, Barb, you have to share, we didn't hear that.
You ever watch Maxwell
Yeah,
Smart?
Maxwell Smart.
No,
The Gra, the
Like
Gra.
thank you, Marv, for your comic relief. Okay, we'll hold it here for today. We'll try to get some clarity for you. Okay, take care, everybody. You have to be of a certain age.
Vintage.
Yeah, vintage stuff.